The battlefield was quiet now, but it had not always been so. Moments ago, the sky had been filled with flashing lights and roaring engines, the ground trembling under the weight of falling ships and exploding energy blasts. Smoke curled into the air in thick black ribbons, and the smell of burnt metal and fuel lingered, almost choking him. The silence that followed felt unreal, like the world itself was holding its breath. Amid the wreckage, he saw her. She was not like the humans he knew. Taller, stronger, her body wrapped in armor that looked alive, glowing faintly along the seams and joints. The armor had been beautiful once, sleek and perfect, but now it was damaged, torn and dented, with sparks dancing over its broken edges. The alien fighter stood breathing hard, her posture unsteady. Every movement made the metal groan, and a shiver ran through him. Her eyes found him. They were sharp, intelligent, and cautious. A human might have stepped back afraid, but he did not. There was something in her gaze that spoke of pain, of exhaustion, but also of vulnerability. She was not a threat now. She was just wounded. He took a careful step closer, unsure if she would attack, unsure if she could even speak. "Are you okay?" His voice sounded small and weak in the vast broken battlefield. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him as if she had never seen a human before, or perhaps never allowed herself to trust one. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. That tiny movement sent a strange warmth through his chest. Even in the middle of this war, even surrounded by destruction, there was something human about connection, about trust. He knelt beside her, careful not to step on twisted metal. His own hands shook slightly as he reached for his toolkit. He had some experience with repairs, mostly on human vehicles and drones, but this was different. Her armor was alive in a way machines were not. Tiny circuits moved and hummed under the surface. Wires glimmered faintly as if they had their own heartbeat. One wrong touch could hurt her, or worse, explode. "You're badly damaged," he said softly, trying to keep his hand steady. His heart pounded as he studied the cracks and breaks in her armor. Sparks flew here and there, and he flinched with each tiny electric shock that jumped off the metal. She shifted slightly, and he noticed her wince. It was subtle, almost hidden, but he saw it. She had fought countless battles, faced enemies he could barely imagine. Yet now she was fragile, trembling in a way that was almost human, and in that moment he felt a surge of responsibility. He couldn't just leave her here, not like this. "Don't worry," he murmured, more to himself than to her. I'll try to help." She said nothing, but her glowing eyes softened, and she made a small movement, an acceptance, a permission. It was not just a sign of trust. It was a gift. He felt the weight of it, heavier than any armor or weapon he had ever carried. Carefully, he laid out his tools, adjusting wires and checking the most dangerous sections first. He spoke to her as he worked, even though he was not sure she understood his language fully. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "I just want to help." For a long moment, she remained silent, and he thought she might not answer. Then, in a voice so soft it barely rose above the wind and the distant crackle of fire, she whispered, "Please, be gentle, human." The word struck him like a shock. Not commanding, not fearful, not alien in any threatening way, just pleading, vulnerable, trusting. He swallowed hard and nodded, forcing his hands to steady themselves. Every movement had to be careful, deliberate, precise. Every wire, every plate he touched carried her life in it. He could feel his own heartbeat in his ears as he worked. Sweat pricked his forehead, but he refused to look away. The way her eyes followed his every move made him realize that she was watching not just for the repair, but for him. For him to prove that humans could be gentle, that humans could care beyond their own survival. Minutes passed like hours. He adjusted bent metal, reconnected circuits, and patched glowing cracks. Occasionally sparks flew and she flinched, but she did not move away. She allowed him to be near her, allowed him to touch her armor in ways no one else could. He thought about the thousands of battles she must have fought, the countless enemies she must have faced, and yet here she was, trusting him, a human, to make her whole again. For the first time, he understood the meaning of bravery. Not the bravery to fight, not the courage to face death, but the courage to allow someone else to care, to touch you when you are most vulnerable. And she, this alien fighter, had given him that courage in return. He paused for a moment, looking at her. Her glowing eyes met his, soft now, almost shy. I'll do my best," he whispered, more to reassure himself than her. And in her silent gaze he felt the bond of something that went beyond words, something unspoken, fragile, and yet stronger than any weapon or shield. In that quiet battlefield, amidst the ruins of war, two beings from completely different worlds had found something rare: trust. And as he began the delicate work of repairing her armor, he realized that the most dangerous battles were not fought with weapons, but with the heart. He studied her armor carefully, every dent, every crack, every wire that sparked dangerously. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Human tech was simple compared to this, sleek, predictable. But this alien armor, it pulsed with energy as if it were alive. Every move of his hands had to be careful, precise. One wrong touch could injure her, or worse. "Okay," he whispered to himself, taking a deep breath. "Just steady, one step at a time." He reached for the first bent plate near her shoulder. Sparks jumped as his fingers brushed it, and he flinched. She flinched too, her glowing eyes widening slightly. I'm sorry," he said quickly, though it wasn't really his fault. She shook her head faintly, and her soft voice whispered, "It's all right. Just, please, be gentle." Her words made his heart tighten. Gentle, a word he had never associated with battle or war. And yet here she was, asking him for gentleness in a world built on violence. Her trust weighed on him, heavier than the heaviest armor he had ever carried. He began carefully, using tools designed for precision. He adjusted circuits and reconnected wires that had been broken in battle. Sparks flew occasionally, and he jumped back each time, but she did not move away. She allowed him to work, her body rigid but not resisting, her eyes fixed on him. "Almost there," he murmured, speaking more to calm himself than her. His hands moved slowly, deliberately. Every adjustment had to be perfect. Every connection mattered. You are different from the others," she said quietly after a long pause, her voice soft, almost shy. He looked at her, confused. "Different?" "Yes," she replied, her glowing eyes studying him. "Most humans would have run, or avoided, but you care." He swallowed hard, feeling warmth rise in his chest. It wasn't praise he was used to, not from humans, and certainly not from aliens. But her words, they made him feel human in the way he had never thought of before. That humans could be brave not just in battle, but in compassion. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as he worked. He reattached plates, reinforced the most fragile points, and carefully replaced some damaged circuits. Each time a piece of armor clicked back into place, he felt a spark of pride. She was letting him do this. She was letting him be near her, helping her without fear. "You are very careful," she whispered suddenly, almost shyly. Her glow pulsed faintly with every word, and he felt as if her very body was acknowledging his effort. "I have to be," he said softly. "One mistake and it could hurt you." Her lips curved into something like a small smile. "I trust you, human." The words made his chest tighten. Trust. An alien warrior, seasoned in countless battles, had given him her trust. He realized then that what he was doing was bigger than repairing metal and wires. He was being trusted with her life, with her vulnerability, and somehow that was more terrifying than any battle he had ever faced. He paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. The battlefield was still silent around them, broken ships smoldering and the smell of burnt metal lingering. But in that quiet, it felt almost sacred. He was repairing her, yes, but he was also connecting across species, across worlds. A human and an alien, learning to trust one another amidst the ruins of war. Slowly he adjusted the final plate over her chest, where the damage had been worst. Sparks flared once, then went out. She exhaled, her body relaxing slightly. "It feels different," she whispered. Her glowing eyes softened, and he could see relief, exhaustion, and something else, gratitude. "You're welcome," he said softly, unsure if he had the right words. She tilted her head, studying him closely. "No, human. You did more than repair armor. You cared for me, for my life. That is rare." His hands were still, and he felt a warmth spread through him that he had not expected. Rare, yes. Humans often fought wars without thought, without kindness. But here, in this ruined battlefield, he realized something important. Humanity was not measured in weapons or victories. It was measured in moments like this, in courage shown through compassion, in the bravery to care for someone who cannot fight for themselves. He looked at her then, her armor still glowing faintly, sparks no longer flying. She was whole again, stronger. but also vulnerable in a way that made her beautiful, not in appearance, but in trust. And he, a human in a vast, uncaring universe, had been allowed to touch that. The silence stretched between them, but it was no longer empty. It was filled with understanding, with connection, and with something fragile yet strong. Two beings from different worlds, brought together by circumstance, had created a bond that went beyond battle. And as he prepared to finish the last minor repairs, he realized the truth. Sometimes the bravest acts are not about fighting. Sometimes they are about being careful, being patient, and being gentle, even when the world has taught you only to be strong. By now, the battlefield was eerily quiet. Smoke rose from twisted ships and distant fires flickered against the darkened sky. Yet in the middle of the destruction, he and the alien fighter remained, surrounded by shattered metal and scorched earth. He had finished repairing most of her armor, but there was more than just metal to fix. He could sense the tension in her posture, the way her body stiffened even when she tried to appear strong. "Almost done," he whispered, carefully checking a complex cluster of wires near her torso. Sparks danced faintly along the edges, and he flinched. She didn't move away, but her glowing eyes softened as if encouraging him to continue. You're very careful," she said quietly, her voice like wind over broken glass. There was no accusation, only observation, and he felt his chest tighten. That simple statement held more meaning than she realized. It was trust, acknowledgement, and something almost like admiration. "I have to be," he replied softly. I can't hurt you." Her gaze lingered on him, curious and calm. "It is strange," she said. "Most beings would have panicked, or ignored me. But you stay. You do not fear my armor, my weapons, or me." Her words struck him in a way nothing else had. He realized that it was not the sparks or the metal that mattered. It was that she allowed him to be near her, to touch her, to care for her when she was most vulnerable. That was bravery he had never truly understood before. Not just facing death, but allowing someone else to see your weakness and still remain present. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, a hint of wonder in her voice. He paused, unsure how to answer. "Because someone has to, because someone should care." Her glow pulsed slightly, brighter, as if acknowledging the weight of his words. She did not speak for a moment, just watched him, studying every movement of his hands as he worked. There was an intimacy in that silence, a quiet understanding. In a battlefield full of enemies, death, and destruction, this moment, this fragile connection, was unlike anything he had ever known. He adjusted the final circuit near her shoulder, and sparks flared briefly before settling down. She exhaled softly, a sound almost human, almost like relief. "It feels better," she said, her voice gentle and soft. "Not just the armor, I feel steadier." "You're stronger than I realized," he said, finally allowing himself a small smile. "Even with all this damage, you're amazing." She tilted her head, a faint smile appearing on her face. "Amazing?" she repeated, almost as if trying to understand the word. Then after a pause, she added softly, I trust you, human, not just with my armor, but with me." The weight of her words pressed down on him. Trust. An alien warrior, a being he had considered almost untouchable, had entrusted him with something far more important than her life. She had given him her confidence, her vulnerability, her permission to care. It was fragile, yet stronger than any weapon he had ever held. He felt a strange warmth rise inside him. He realized something important. Being human was not about weapons, war, or victories. It was about compassion, courage, and the ability to reach out to someone when they needed help the most. And here, in the middle of a battlefield that had destroyed everything around them, he was being given the chance to do just that. They worked in silence after that, side by side as he finished adjusting the smaller plates along her arms and legs. Each click of metal felt like a heartbeat, each spark a reminder that she was alive, whole again. Her eyes followed every movement of his hands, her glow steady now, her body relaxed for the first time since he had found her. You are different from others," she whispered after a long pause. "You see what is inside, not just outside. Most only see armor, weapons, or you see me." He swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. "I see you," he said quietly. "All of you, and I care." For the first time, she let a small laugh escape her lips. It was soft, melodic, almost musical, cutting through the smoke and silence of the battlefield. Care? From a human, I did not think it possible. He looked at her, his hand still hovering over the final repairs. It is, humans. We have it inside us. Sometimes we forget, but it's there. And right now, I want you to feel it. She tilted her head again, studying him, her glow pulsating gently. In her eyes, he saw recognition, understanding, and something more. A bond forming between two beings from different worlds. A bond not of blood or species, but of trust, courage, and mutual respect. The sounds of distant fires crackling and the faint groans of damaged ships surrounded them. But they did not matter. Nothing mattered except this fragile connection, this understanding that in the vastness of war and destruction, they had found something rare, each other. And in that moment, he realized the truth. The strongest warriors are not always those who fight the hardest. Sometimes they are the ones who allow themselves to trust, to care, and to be gentle, even in a universe that demands only strength and survival. She reached out, just slightly, as if inviting him to acknowledge the bond they had created. He met her hand, careful, gentle, and for a moment everything else disappeared. The battlefield, the smoke, the fire. There was only trust. There was only connection. And he understood fully and completely that in this moment they were not human and alien. They were simply two souls, fragile and brave, reaching out to one another. The quiet did not last. From the horizon he saw shadows moving, small but fast. Enemy drones swarming in a relentless formation, cutting through the smoke like hungry predators. His heart raced. They were too many for him alone, and even she, though repaired, was still recovering from the damage he had just fixed. She stiffened immediately, her glowing eyes narrowing, every movement tense and precise. Her armor hummed with energy, circuits sparking faintly along the joints as she prepared for combat. Her fingers tightened around invisible controls, ready to unleash a barrage of attacks. "No," he shouted, stepping forward instinctively. "You're not ready. You just—" His words caught in his throat as she turned toward him, eyes blazing. "I fight for those who trust me," she said, her voice calm but firm. Even humans, her words stopped him. There was no arrogance in them, no challenge, just quiet strength. And in that strength he saw something more. A warrior who refused to step back. A fighter who had faced countless battles and could still protect those she cared for. He swallowed hard, knowing he could not stop her, yet fearing for her life. "At least let me help," he shouted, grabbing a small control panel he had found nearby, a device capable of temporarily disrupting enemy drones. He ran to her side, heart pounding. Together they faced the approaching danger. The first wave of drones surged forward, firing lasers that cut through smoke and debris. She moved with speed and precision, dodging attacks effortlessly, though a flicker of pain crossed her face with each movement. Sparks flew from her repaired armor, and he saw the strain of battle etched into her glowing eyes. "Steady," he muttered to himself, activating the control panel. A pulse of energy spread across the battlefield, temporarily disabling several drones. She smiled faintly at him, and for a moment, there was understanding in that glance, a silent acknowledgement that they were a team. "Thank you," she whispered, almost under her breath. The drones regrouped, faster and smarter this time. She leapt into the fray, using her repaired armor to deflect attacks, her movements fluid and deadly. He watched in awe, realizing that what he had helped repair was not just metal. It was life, strength, and determination. She was unstoppable, yet every strike she made was guided by the trust they had built together. One drone got too close, firing a beam that would have torn through her side. He jumped forward, pushing a small energy shield between them. Sparks flew, and his hands tingled with electricity, but he held firm. She glanced at him, eyes wide for a brief moment, and then continued fighting, stronger, faster. The battle raged around them, but in the midst of it, something remarkable happened. The human and the alien moved as one. He supported her, guided her, and she protected him, covering his weaknesses with her strength. Every enemy that approached fell before their combined effort, and he realized that trust and connection could be more powerful than weapons alone. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the last drone fell. Smoke and fire filled the battlefield, but silence returned once more. She stood there breathing heavily, her glowing armor flickering gently, scars from the fight still visible but no longer deadly. She looked at him, eyes softening in a way that almost startled him. You, you did not run, she said quietly. You stayed.
You fought.
Beside me. He shook his head, chest heaving. I couldn't just leave you. She took a cautious step closer, her glowing hand reaching out just slightly. Humans. I did not think I could trust so easily. But now I do. You are different. Strong and gentle, brave and caring, all at once. Her words struck him deeply. He realized that what they had shared, the careful repair, the trust, the bond, was stronger than the battlefield, stronger than any weapon. They had faced death together, and in doing so, had discovered something rare: respect, connection, and understanding across worlds. He finally allowed himself to breathe fully, feeling relief and awe in equal measure. She had survived because he had helped her, yes, but she had also survived because she had chosen to trust him. And in that choice he saw something he had never experienced before: the power of humanity, not just in strength or courage, but in compassion. She stepped closer, her glowing eyes studying him, and whispered softly, almost shyly, "Human, I owe you more than my life. I owe you my trust and my respect." He met her gaze, feeling a mixture of pride, humility, and a deep, unfamiliar warmth. "Then I'll keep it safe," he said quietly. "I'll honor it. I promise." In that moment, the battlefield felt different. The smoke, fire, and destruction were still there, but their bond made them stronger than all of it. He understood fully and completely that sometimes courage was not just in fighting, but in caring, in trusting, in being gentle even when the world demanded violence. And as they stood together, human and alien, he realized that the universe, vast, dangerous, and cold, was not as lonely as he had thought. Not when trust, compassion, and bravery could bring two beings from different worlds together. The battlefield was quiet once again. Smoke drifted lazily into the sky, carrying the scent of fire and scorched metal. Broken ships and debris lay scattered across the landscape. But amidst the ruins, the human and the alien stood together, unscathed not by luck but by trust, courage, and understanding. She turned toward him, her glowing eyes soft and calm. The repaired armor reflected the fading light, sparks now only flickering gently along the seams. She breathed heavily, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. Yet there was a light in her eyes, a spark that no battle could ever extinguish. "You," she whispered, her voice low and hesitant. "Human, you saved me. Not just my armor, but me." He shook his head, feeling warmth spread through his chest. I just wanted to help," he said quietly, almost embarrassed by the weight of her gratitude. "I couldn't leave you like that, not when you trusted me." Her glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "Trust in it is rare. Among my kind, trust is earned over centuries, through battle, through proof. And you earned it in minutes. You stayed gentle, careful, and brave." He swallowed hard, thinking of the sparks, the bent plates, the trembling moment when she had first asked him to be gentle. He had never expected a battlefield to feel so alive, so fragile, so personal, and yet it had. He had touched her life, and she had touched his in ways that no human had ever done before. "You are different from any human I have known," she continued. "Most would fight with strength and arrogance. But you fight with care. You do not only protect yourself, you protect others, even strangers. Even me." The words hit him deeply. Humanity, he realized, was not just about weapons, victory, or survival. It was about courage and compassion, bravery and gentleness, and the strength to trust when the world only offered fear. She had shown him that his humanity mattered, not just in what he could do, but in who he could be. He looked at her, truly looked. Every scar in her armor, every flicker of her glow told a story of battles fought and victories earned. But beneath it all, he saw vulnerability, strength, and grace intertwined. I care," he whispered. "I care about you, about life, about doing what's right." She tilted her head slightly as if trying to understand his words fully. Then she extended a hand, alien, glowing, yet gentle, toward him. It was not just a gesture of thanks, but a gesture of connection, respect, and recognition. "I trust you, human," she said softly. "And not only that, I respect you, more than I can explain." His own hands shook slightly as he took hers, feeling the warmth and energy that radiated from her armor. In that touch, he felt the depth of what they had shared. The danger, the trust, the careful repair, and the bond forged in moments of vulnerability and courage. It was rare, precious, and entirely human in its meaning. "You have taught me something," she whispered, leaning slightly closer. "Strength is not only in the body, nor skill in combat. Strength is in the heart. And humans, you have hearts that can reach beyond what we know." He nodded slowly, feeling a lump form in his throat. I never thought of it that way. But I understand now, because I see it in you. In your bravery, in your trust, in you." She smiled faintly, a soft curve of her lips that was almost shy, almost human. "And I will remember this. Not just the battle, not just the repair, but the human who cared, who trusted, who stayed gentle when all else was harsh. That is worth more than any weapon." He felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Pride, humility, awe, and a deep sense of purpose. The universe was vast, uncaring, and often cruel. But in moments like this, he understood that humanity could shine brighter than any star, fiercer than any weapon, and gentler than the sharpest blade. The alien fighter stepped closer, lowering her glowing hand. "Human, promise me something," she said softly. "Promise me you will always carry this kindness, even when it is difficult, even when others do not understand." He met her gaze, steady and sure. "I promise," he said firmly. "I will, always." For a long moment they stood together, hand in hand, surrounded by smoke, fire, and broken metal. But none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was trust, respect, and the unspoken understanding that had grown between them. Two beings from completely different worlds, connected by courage, compassion, and the power of humanity. She finally stepped back, allowing a small, victorious smile to play across her face. "Then, human, you have my gratitude, my respect, and something more. You have reminded me that even in war, even in destruction, there is hope, and hope is the greatest strength of all." He nodded, feeling something he could not fully describe. Pride, yes. Relief, certainly. But also a warmth in his chest, a quiet joy in knowing that he had made a difference, not just in battle, but in the life of someone who had trusted him completely. The smoke drifted higher, the fires dimmed, and the battlefield grew still. But amidst the ruin, the human and the alien stood side by side, not just as survivor and repaired warrior, but as equals, connected by trust, respect, and the simple, powerful truth of humanity. And in that quiet moment, he realized that humanity was not just a race, a planet, or a species. It was courage, compassion, and the bravery to care. And today, he had lived that truth.